Radharaya Radhikayai Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradha Hari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachari Yamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Radha Kunja Bihari Radhe Jaya Radha Rasbihari Radha Rasbihari Radhe Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Jaya Radha Gopinata Radha Gopinata Radhe Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Radha Ramanna Radha Ramanna Radhe Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Jaya Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudeva Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jai Om Vishupad Paramahamsa Raghuchaya Ashota Satta Shishma Chile Se Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishupad Paramahamsa Raghuchaya Ashota Satta Shishma Chila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Rup Sri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Ji Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Chari Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवहरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जाय श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोप गो गोविंद श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जाय वृंदावन धाम की जाय मथुरा धाम की जाय मायापुर धाम की जाय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जाय तुलसी महारानी भक्ति देवी की जाय गंगा यमुना देवी की जाय हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जाय श्री श्री गौनिताय की जाय श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जाय श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की जाय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल समवेत भक्त वृंद की जाय All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki. Reading from the Bhagavad-Gita, 6th chapter, text number 28. Dhyana Yoga. Yuñjan evam sadātmānaṁ yogī vigata-kalmaṣaḥ sukhena brahma-saṁsparśam atyantaṁ sukham aśnute yuñjan evaṁ sadātmānaṁ yogī vigata-kalmaṣaḥ sukhena brahma-saṁsparśam atyantam sukham aśnute yuñjan evam sadātmānaṁ yogī vigata-kalmaṣaḥ sukhena brahma-saṁsparśam atyantam sukham aśnute. Mataji, yuñjan evaṁ sadātmānaṁ yogī vigata-kalmaṣaḥ sukhena brahma-saṁsparśam atyantaṁ sukham aśnute. yuñjan evaṁ sadātmānaṁ yogī vigata-kalmaṣaḥ sukhena brahma-saṁsparśam atyantam sukham aśnute. Yuñjan, engaging in yoga practice. Evam, thus, sadā, always, ātmānam, the self, yogī, one who is in touch with the Supreme Self, vigata, freed from kalmaṣaḥ, all material contamination, sukhena, in transcendental happiness, brahma-saṁsparśam, being in constant touch with the Supreme, atyantam, the highest, sukham, happiness, aśnute, attains. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Thus the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Purport. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called brahma-saṁsparśa. Om ajnana-timirandasya jnananjana-salakaya chakshurunmilitam yenam tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Sabhadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalan Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sirupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadātmānaṁ Savadūtam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Goviganta Radha Kanta Namastude Datta Ganjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaeva cha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivajari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Rama Hare 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 Nama Eva Kevalam Kalam Nastyeva Gatiranyata Yuñjan evam sadātmānaṁ yogī vigata-kalmaṣaḥ sukhena brahma-saṁsparśam atyantaṁ sukham aśnute. Very beautiful verses here in this chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, explaining about the yogi, the transcendentalist who is absorbed in meditation of the Lord. And so in these verses here, the last few verses and these verses, so the position of a successful yogi is explained. As we know, yoga means to link with the Supreme Lord, to be connected, to be situated on the transcendental plane. So here, in this verse, it is explained that the devotee or the yogi is engaged in the service of the Lord. He is performing yoga, and as we know, different yoga systems are there: karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga or ashtanga yoga, so which specifically is mentioned here. And then the highest bhakti-yoga. So we have to connect to the Supreme Lord, and we have to understand our constitutional position, first theoretically, and then we have to try to practically realize our constitutional position and our relationship with the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So in that state, when one is properly situated on the spiritual platform, then as mentioned here, vigata-kalmaṣaḥ, that the yogi or the devotee is free from all material contamination. Of course, so that is a gradual process. If one is engaged in devotional activities, one understands one's position, our relationship with the Supreme Lord, and is fully engaged in spiritual activities with all one's energy, using one's intelligence in the service of Krishna, fixing the mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, engaging all the senses in the service of Krishna, then gradually the consciousness is becoming purified of all unwanted things, kalmash, impurities. Different kinds of impurities are there, anarthas are there, unwanted things. 4 kinds are mentioned. Asat Trishna, first of all. Asat, that which is non-permanent. Trishna, to have thirst for that, thirst for material things, temporary things of this material world. So that has to be given up. One has to be very eager to serve Krishna. Utsa nischay darya tatta karma pravartanat. One should be very enthusiastic and fixed. Eka kuru nandana, that I have to serve Krishna. That is my position. I'm the servant of Krishna, so I should be fully absorbed in that. Very fixed. And as explained also in the previous verses, that one is not deviating at any circumstance. And even the mind is going here or there, or the senses, one has to withdraw them from the sense object, and one has to fix them in the self. And the senses, the mind have to be fixed on Krishna, have to be engaged in the service of Krishna. And then the purification is there of the consciousness. So even knowing what we should do, but still sometimes there's second anatta is there, hridaya daurbalya, the weakness of the heart. Although one knows and one tries one's best to serve Krishna, to be absorbed in hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna, speaking about Krishna, still, because of the modes of material nature, because of the environment, because of some impurity in the heart, then one actually is deviating hridaya daurbalyam, that is weakness of heart, and one is again engaging in materialistic activities. So that has to be avoided. And then the third that is explained, Sarup Brahma. So not knowing the actual position of Krishna as the Supreme Lord, or even having some imperfect understanding, like for example something that everything is one, even Krishna, Vishnu, Ram, even maybe the demigods, they're all one, part of the absolute truth. In one sense, everything is one in the absolute realm. Everything is coming from Krishna, who is the Supreme. At the same time, there's variety. So Krishna is ever existing, although everything is situated in Him. But then the separate transcendental Supreme Personalities of Godhead are there, like Vishnu, Ram. They are not different from Krishna. But there's a difference also. Krishna is living in Golok Vrindavan with his associates, performing pastimes. Dwarkadish is in Dwarka with his associates. And then Vishnu or Ram, they are in their respective planets, Ayodhya in the spiritual world, or in Vaikuntha planets, and they have their associates, and they are fully satisfied in their loving exchange with their associates. So all is one in regards of the absolute truth, being non-different from Krishna, but then the different personalities are there. Just like in this world, there may be the Indian government. So there's one Indian government, that is one government. At the same time, then different personalities are there in the government. There's a president, the prime minister, and each Pradesh. So there is there is a chief minister. Like Uttar Pradesh has one chief minister, Aditya Yogi, and then in Himachal Pradesh is another, in West Bengal is another chief minister. And these all personalities, and all have a name, and have a family, or a house where they're staying, and some friends. So, but there is one government, the Indian government. Of course, different parties may be there, that is another point, but there's one government there. And different personalities are there. So similarly in the government of the Lord, there's one government, the transcendental realm, but different personalities are there. So that has to be understood. And then, so but not knowing that, that is a kind of illusion. And then also the position of the soul, that we are spirit soul, we are completely different from the gross and subtle body, that That we know, but even there are different conceptions. Some say that the absolute truth has no form and we will merge in that. That is also another illusion. Some yogis, they want to merge in the Paramatma and the super soul. So that is not the right conception of the soul. But the soul is an infinitesimal spirit being, but is having a personal relationship with Krishna or with Vishnu. And so spirit soul, a jiva, atma, has its transcendental form. Just like the Lord, Satchidananda Vigraha. But Krishna is unlimited, Vibhu, He is great, and the jiva is Anu. Anuchit Shakti, very small, infinitesimal. But there's a form there. Like in this material world, there are many human beings and there are different forms are there. And different identities are there. So also in the spiritual world, different forms are there. Or even there, male or female forms, associates of the Lord's. Even animals are there, but they are transcendental entities. Satchidananda Sarup they have. They're eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. Even in the spiritual world, for example, the parrots, they can talk very nicely. Whereas here in this world, the parrots, they can talk a little bit, but not much. But in the transcendental realm, the parrots, like Krishna has a parrot, a few parrots, and they all have a name. Like Krishna's one parrot name is Daksha. He's very expert in glorifying Krishna. Srimati Radharani has many parrots, and they all have a name. One is Shobha, one of the parrots, female parrots' name is Manju Bhashini, and she's very expert in glorifying Srimati Radharani. And then there are cows are there, calves, bulls, and they all have a name, and they are sentient beings, and they have a loving relationship with Krishna. And even monkeys are there, and so many animals are there, but they are all perfect, and they are able to reciprocate with Krishna. So that is the constitutional position of the jiva. And then the performance of devotional service, that has to be known also, how to engage in devotional service properly. And for example, how to go to Braj, which process to adopt, Padati, that the acharyas have explained, and we have to learn, we have to know how to engage in devotional service. In order to go to Braj, we have to enter the realm of spontaneous, transcendental loving service, Raganuga Bhakti, following the eternal associates of Krishna in Braj. So there's a process, and we have to learn. And then we go higher stage, Bhav Bhakti. So if one is not aware of that, that is a kind of anatta, and if one is not having the proper knowledge, the proper guidance, then one will not very quickly attain the goal. It may take much more time. Maybe then we even have to wait for next lifetime till we have the proper association and the good fortune of understanding everything clearly as it is. And fourth kind of unwanted thing is aparad. So we have to be free from any offenses towards the Supreme Lord, seva parad, offenses due to not properly chanting the holy names, or not respecting the devotees, or even any common embodied jiva, soul. So one has to guard against that. And then, so if one is able to do that, and if one is fixed, nishta, then one can very nicely advance in spiritual life, and one becomes more quickly cleansed. But even on the platform of ruchi asakti, when one is attached to Krishna and detached from this material world, even some impurities will be there on that platform. But then one has to remain fully engaged in devotional activities, and then ultimately one can become completely freed from any contamination. And that on that platform, so one will attain atyantam sukham, bliss. happiness. Atyant, that is the highest. Atyutam, the highest form of happiness is there if one is fully engaged in devotional activities, serving Krishna, and then one will understand one's position, and that is known, as Purport is saying, self-realization, realization, practical realization of oneself, also known as atma-sakshatkar, direct perception of oneself. That is ultimately the goal of life, and then the highest bliss is there. If one is fully absorbed in the transcendental loving service with Krishna, and Krishna is the source of all transcendental bliss, Paramananda. So when one is absorbed in the service, then naturally the reciprocation is there, the exchange with Krishna, and then one will feel so much transcendental happiness, the highest transcendental happiness, which is ever increasing. Anandam buddhivadanam pratipadam punnam ritta-svadanam sarvatma-snapanam param vijayate si Krishna sankirtanam. So by chanting the holy names, especially the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So by chanting the holy names, slowly but surely, Cheto Darpanamajanam. So the mirror of the mind or the consciousness, Chitta, Cheto, Darpana, which is like a mirror, the consciousness, is cleansed. So if the consciousness is not pure, just like if you have a mirror, and if you're not cleaning every day, then the mirror becomes dusty. So then you cannot see yourself in the mirror. Then you have to wipe the mirror, then you can see yourself. So by chanting the holy names, by engaging in devotional services, the chitta, the consciousness, is cleansed. And then you can see yourself as spirit soul. And then as soon as you see yourself, automatically that means you can see Krishna as he is. Direct perception of Krishna, Krishna Sakshatkar. And even the other way, if you see Krishna as he is, then you will see yourself also. It goes hand in hand. If you see yourself, then you can see Krishna as he is. If you see Krishna as he is, then you can see yourself. And then you can understand your relationship with Krishna. And then all the different things are manifested slowly but surely. Your transcendental name, and then your transcendental form, your relationship, and what is your seva, and where is your vasastan, your abode in the spiritual world where you will be staying, like that, and everything is slowly but surely revealed. That is known as Sarup Siddhi. Sarup Siddhi, realization of oneself, real self, the spiritual transcendental self. And after that you can enter the pastimes of the Lord, and then you will be transferred to the spiritual world, and there is no more birth in this material world. And so that is the greatest happiness is there when one is engaged in the transcendental loving service. So that is ever increasing, that transcendental happiness. In the conditioned state, it is difficult to understand. Only if one is fully absorbed, then one can fully appreciate Krishna, and one can understand everything clearly as it is. And then one will be, as mentioned in the previous verses, one will be not disturbed by anything. All the difficulties may be coming, as they are always coming in this material world. But one is not, even in the greatest difficulty, one is not bewildered, one is not shaken, and one is still remaining constantly engaged in devotional service. But still, of course, even so in this material world, even the pure devotees, they are feeling some difficulties, but they are not disturbed so much. Some disturbance may be there, but they are not giving up their service. They are not giving up rendering service. They are not giving up hearing about Krishna, speaking about Krishna, remembering Krishna. And actually those on the highest stage, for them it is normal to think about Krishna. There is not even, always they are engaged, and because they are free from the material nature, for the modes of material nature, it is natural to think about Krishna. It is natural to be completely absorbed. So one has to try to come to that stage, being free from the three modes of material nature. And thus also here it is mentioned, brahma-saṁsparśam. One is in touch with Brahma, the Param Brahma, the Supreme Absolute Truth. It is explained that the pure devotees are Krishna alingata vigraham. They are embracing Krishna, or they are embraced by Krishna. So that is to be desired, that is the actual goal. Even there is a beautiful book by Sanatana Goswami, known as Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and nicely explaining what is the highest goal for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. That is serving Krishna in Brajabhav, like the Brijbasis. So that is in two parts. In one part, Narada Muni is seeing different devotees and is glorifying that devotee. And then he's coming and explaining that the greatest devotees are the Brijbasis. And amongst them, Giri Govardhan is very much glorified, even by Srimati Radharani. But then we know that actually the greatest devotees are the gopis. And that is ultimately recognized by all the genuine Vaishnavas. Like even Bhishmadev, after the war between the Kauravas and the Pandavas, he was wounded, but he was blessed that he could decide when to leave his body. So he was wounded and he know now I will have to give up my body, but I want to wait for some time when everything is auspicious. And then after that, after the war, then the Pandavas and the old, whoever was remaining there, they went to him, and then Bhishmadev actually gave some instructions to Yudhishthira Maharaj in regards how to conduct himself as the emperor. So he was to be crowned as the emperor, finally. So then he was giving instructions, very valuable instructions, which are also helpful for us, even regarding Vana Ashram, which is important for the emperor to know, so he can make sure that everyone is following Vana Ashram. Even Prabhupada, before leaving this world, he told his devotee, after he had established so many temples and devotional service and told the devotees what to do and what not to do, what is most important, stressing on chanting the holy names, worshipping the deities, and hearing Bhagavatam in the association of the saintly persons, establishing, preaching, centers of course, and in the holy dhams, also Vrindavan Dham, a beautiful temple in Mayapur. But then he said towards the end of his life, half of my work is done, but now half of the other work is remaining. And that is establishing Vana Ashram. Because not everyone can immediately come to the platform of pure devotional service and embrace Braj Bhakti or enter the realm of Rag Marg. That is not so easily achieved. It will take time. But we should know what is the goal, and we should try to enter that realm and try to become as much as possible perfect. But so in order to be properly situated, one has to follow Vana Ashram. So Bhishmadev was explaining about that. But then at one point he was also explaining who are the greatest devotees. And then he was explaining the greatest devotees are the gopis of Braj. Their love towards Krishna, that is unparalleled, that is the highest. And even other great personalities, they have also proclaimed, and especially our Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and most of the acharyas, they are actually gopis or manjaris. So that is the highest position. the gopis of Braj, they are the greatest of the devotees. So by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we are able to be here in Braj, and then we are able to perform devotional service, and we have this knowledge, but then we have to try to also apply that in our life. And then we have to see that we are always properly situated, fixed, and then we should try to help others also. So every day is auspicious in Braj, in Vrindavan, but sometimes some of the times are even more auspicious than other times. Like for example, the Kartik Vrat is there, known as Urja Vrat. And according to Nectar of Devotion to Prabhupada, we should all follow this Vrat during this month, and that is most auspicious. And whatever we do is magnified thousands and times. So chanting during this month is most auspicious. And if you can try to chant more, it is more wonderful. Or every day we have to offer the ghee lamp to Damodar, Yashoda Damodar, and we have to chant the Damodar Ashtakam. So starting from tomorrow is the last day of Ashwin Mas, Purnima Tithi, known as Sharad Purnima. And the wonderful pastime is there. In Sharad Purnima, Maharas is there, of Krishna with so many gopis who are there in Maharas. So Ras Leela is there, the transcendental dance of Krishna with the gopis. So Maharas is the great dance of Krishna with the gopis. Because on this day, Krishna's eternal associates were there with Krishna dancing, but then other gopis who had become perfect. Just like Prabhupada also said, the goal of our life is to dance with Krishna, especially as gopis. Of course, sometimes the gopas may also be dancing with Krishna, but that is not very significant and not very often. But the gopis, they are most exalted, and it is natural for girls, they like to dance. Of course, even the brahmacharis also dance, the sannyasis in the temple, or Mahaprabhu is a great dancer, and even so Mahaprabhu, every evening he was going to Shiva Sangam, his devotee's place, Shiva's Pandit, and then in the courtyard of his place, of his house, then every night he was dancing. Actually 8:30 this artik in Shiva Sangam performed by the associates. Sometimes the demigods are doing artik of Mahaprabhu, and then they are dancing, first very slowly chanting and dancing, and it becomes more and more ecstatic, just like our devotees. They do Gora artik, chanting, dancing softly, but then it escalates and becomes very ecstatic, and that is there. But then Mahaprabhu so is dancing ecstatically, and is remembering actually the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, how they are dancing so beautifully. So in Maharas, so those who have become perfect in their spiritual life, who realize their transcendental position practically, and then after giving up the body, then they take birth in Braj, and then in the association of the eternal associates, they are able to learn how to properly serve the divine couple. And then, so some of these gopis who were just perfect, they were able to also join the rasa dance for some time. So that is a famous Rasa Leela. But then also it is explained at one point that Radharani was feeling, oh, there are so many gopis, but I want to be alone with Krishna and my friends in her group. Like the many groups may be there amongst brahmachari also, some friends, and there is other group of brahmacharis. The girls also, they have some friends, and other girls, they have their friends. So in Golok also, Radharani is there and her gopis are there, and another groups of gopis are there. So she wanted to be alone with Krishna, so she left the rasa dance. And because Srimati Radharani, she is most beautiful, most expert in serving and giving pleasure to Krishna, when she left, the Krishna was feeling, oh, Radharani is not there, and then he also So left her, although he's Atmaram, Aptakam, fully self-satisfied, but he was feeling something is missing, Radharani is not there. Then he also left the rasa dance. And then he came to Radharani and they were together for some time, but then he left Radharani also and the other gopis came. And so that is described also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there were Rasa Panchadhyay, 5 chapters in regards to the Ras Leela. And so therefore many devotees during the month of Kartik, they will chant the Venu Geet or the Gopi Geet. So to come in the mood of the gopis, so we may be able to become perfect. So it is a gradual process, but one must come to understand how to practice so that we can become perfect in our spiritual life. So we have to be very diligent and very serious and sincere, and we have to cry out for help. And because alone it is not possible to advance in spiritual life. We need the association of the devotees. We need a good environment. And especially we have to be in the association of the Mahatmas, the great souls who are highly advanced, who are realized. So they will be able to guide us, they will be able to bless us, so we can advance quickly on the path of spiritual life, so that you may become perfect as soon as possible. So the process is given by Srila Prabhupada, the previous acharyas, so we should try to follow as good as possible. And therefore Prabhupada and the acharyas have explained that we should follow these months of Kartik Vrat, Uja Vrata. And so Kartik Mas, that is the Sanskrit name for this month, but according to Vaishnavas, that month is also known as Damodar Mas. So the pastime of Yashoda Damodar is there. Maria Yashoda binding Krishna, because Krishna was a little naughty. So as we know, Yashoda Mai, she was breastfeeding Krishna. At the same time she was boiling some milk on the stove. And then the milk was overboiling. So then she immediately went there because she wanted to make some sweet for Krishna. So she went there, she put Krishna down, but Krishna, in a loving relationship, he was not fully satisfied, although he's self-satisfied, but in the pastime, he was still wanting to drink more of his mother's milk. Therefore he becomes transcendently angry, little Krishna, Param Brahma, the Supreme Lord. And so then he is going to the next room where there are many pots of milk and yogurt and butter, as Maria Yashoda is taking care of the milk. In the meantime, Krishna is sticking a stick there and is breaking the pot. Milk is flowing out, the yogurt is coming out, butter pot is broken, he's taking some butter, eating the butter, giving to his friends, and the monkeys also. And Maria Yashoda comes back and she's seeing Krishna being mischievous, so she runs after him. And little Krishna is running. And Maria Yashoda, she's taking the stick which is there, and with the stick in the hand, running behind Krishna. And Krishna, who is most powerful, but is there in his pastime as a little boy, and so he's crying just like an ordinary boy. And that is most beautiful. The tears are coming down his eyes, mixing with the ointment, the kajal, which is there, and the tears become black. And then she's catching him, and Krishna and the other gopis are saying, and they are telling Mother Yashoda, look, little Krishna is crying and he's afraid of you. Although everyone is fear personified is afraid of Krishna. But Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda. So then they are telling Mother Yashoda, the gopis, you throw away your stick, he's afraid of your stick. That you want to beat him. So she's throwing away the stick, but she's thinking still have to punish Krishna. He has to learn to behave properly. Taking some rope. And then wanting to bind Krishna. But the rope is 2 fingers too short. So one is the endeavor, signifying the endeavor. One has to endeavor to catch Krishna. So she was binding Krishna, but the rope was too short. She took some more rope, still it was too short. Asking the other gopis to bring some more rope, still too short. And she was wondering, what is this? How this is possible? And then she's perspiring and almost on the verge of crying. What is happening here? So she's endeavoring so much that Krishna sees. And then he's satisfied and he let himself be bound up. So that is his mercy. So these 2 fingers are the endeavor and the mercy. So we have to endeavor. And then we will get the mercy of the Lord, by which we can advance more and more. And then we'll get more mercy. So we remember this pastime and we worship Yashoda Damodar. But even more so then also we worship Radha Damodar. And even the gopis sometimes they're binding Krishna in a loving exchange with some cloth or with some flower garland. So because they want to be very close to each other, Krishna and Radharani or the gopis. So by following this vrat and trying to serve more, to chant some ashtakams or chant more rounds, and then maybe giving up some sense gratification and maybe reducing the eating or eating less sweet. So in this way we should try to do some sankalpa, some vow declaration that in this month I will serve Krishna more and I will give up sense gratification. Also what we should try to do, because the conditioned soul is very much under the modes of material nature, and then it is almost the natural of the conditioned soul that is criticizing others, finding fault. But it is a good habit to try to avoid that, and during the month of Kartik especially we should try not to criticize anyone. We should try to see the good qualities of others, not try to see the fault. Otherwise our service would not be so much appreciated by Krishna. If we make some sweet rice, and if at the end we put some sugar, but if instead of sugar we put some salt, it will not be very tasty and pleasurable to the Lord. So if we engage in devotional service, but if we're criticizing somebody, finding unnecessarily fault in somebody, it is like putting salt in the sweet rice. Not very pleasurable. Tomorrow night actually, it is the custom in all the temples to make some sweet rice in the temple or at home. And in the night time, we offer that to Krishna, knowing that after Ras Leela, Radha Krishna, they're a little tired, so they need something nice to eat. So they will take some kheer, some sweet rice. So whatever Krishna likes, that we should try to offer. And Krishna is most sweet, and he likes sweets also. So if we can, like for example, Makkan Mishri, that is also every day we offer to Damodar one pot, at least one pot of Makkan and Mishri, because Krishna likes that. So some devotees are sponsoring. Even this year already we have 2 every day sponsoring one pot of Makkan and Mishri. And then it is distributed also. So Krishna is very sweet boy. Everything about Krishna is sweet. So we should try to serve with by very sweetly glorifying Krishna, chanting the holy names, and with love, priti, from the heart we should worship Krishna with some feeling. When we chant the holy names, it should not be mechanical, it should be from the heart, with love. When you offer flowers, pushpanjali, we should not just offer flowers, but we offer our heart to the lotus feet of Krishna, then Krishna will be satisfied. It is, as the saying goes, it is not so important what you do, but how you do. We should do our service nicely, properly, but then the consciousness must be there also. We should do with attention. We should do priti purvak, with love. We should chant the holy name. We should serve the deities. We should deal with the devotees in a loving way. Then Krishna will be satisfied, and then we'll be also satisfied. And then we'll feel the greatest transcendental bliss as mentioned here. In brahma-saṁsparśam, in connection with Krishna, when we are touching Krishna, the lotus feet of Krishna, by those who are serving the deities, Prabhupada is explained, who can touch the deities' lotus feet, they are most fortunate, with the hand or with the head touching the feet of the Lord. But if one is not able to go on the altar, but even from outside, mentally you can touch the lotus feet of the Lord. And then if one is purified in consciousness, then we can actually touch Krishna, we can embrace Krishna. And that is the perfection. In this book, Priyat Bhagavatamrita, so in the second book, so there's about one devotee is explaining to another person about his life, how he became perfect. And when he became perfect, he came to Braj in one of the pastimes, in Prakat Lila, where Krishna performs his pastimes. And Krishna is entering back from the pasturing grounds. Gocharan Lila, he's coming back, Goduli Samai, evening time. When the cows and the calves are coming back with Krishna, millions of cows, and then because of their hooves and they're running, and Krishna is running, they're all running back. And then this cloud is created by the hoofs of the cows and the calves, and it is known as Goduli Samai in the evening time. So Krishna is coming back, and then he sees this one Gopa who is just entering the pastime there, and his first time he's seeing Krishna, and then Krishna is embracing him. And he's saying, oh, his name was Sarup. He's saying, oh, I'm very happy to see you again. So Krishna actually wants us to come back to him. He's eagerly waiting for us to come back to him. He's even more eager for us to come back than we are eager to go to him. But so we should try our best to make as much advancement as possible and be fixed, try to be absorbed in our devotional service and not be diverted from anything else. So that would be the perfection of a yogi, being in touch with Krishna and then experiencing so much transcendental bliss. Hare Krishna, Sri Radha Damodara ki, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Hare Krishna. Mahaprasadam ki. So you can come and get some Mahaprasad.